Should also be required for cats. We've added some other provisions about it's now against the law to bring animals into the city marshal for purposes of abandoning those animals. Community service officer has the rights to enforce the provisions. Don't interfere with that officer if they're trying to get a dog or a cat under control. Then there are obviously then definitions of what is or is not a dangerous dog, what's a potentially dangerous dog, and if it is determined to be dangerous, then there are certain requirements, including insurance bonding. You have to pay an annual fee, the fee to be set by this council, microchip identification. So it is fairly extensive changes. Those changes comply with the current state statutes. And it's been reviewed several times by Legislative and Ordinance Committee, by the Public Safety, Public Works. So you have it as is.
May I open up comment as part of the public hearing? First comment from the Legislative and Ordinance Committee.
Well, as Dennis has indicated, this has been a working process over several months, and it did expand to including the police department and coming up with some of the definitions and their concerns that they wanted addressed at community service. And well, I think all the departments in the city have had some input. This is the recommendation.
Any comments from the audience as part of this public hearing? Yes. And then for the minutes, we need to have you identify your name and your address.
Sure. My name is Nancy Bloomy, and I live at 312 Walnut. I'm a homeowner there. And this subject has become kind of near and dear to my heart because my husband and I moved to our house in about the year 2000, and since then we put a lot of time and effort into our home, and we've had a few problems in our neighborhood with menacing dogs. And in 2005, my husband helped one of our neighbors pull a dog off of our neighbor's puppy. And that particular dog lived in a rental property 3 houses away from us. And it rushed the door and ran out and attacked this puppy. The owner of the attacking dog had a hard time getting the dog off of the puppy. Finally did. Put it back in the house. They thought all was well, and the dog rushed the door again and came out to attack one more time. I have 2 small children, and as of that date, my freedoms were kind of affected because I didn't really dare have my kids go down in that part of the block. And so I looked into the ordinance, and at that time the ordinance seemed pretty inadequate. And so I was really excited when I heard that you guys were going to be reviewing the ordinance and doing something different with it. Jenny provided a copy of the draft to me, which I've had a chance to look over a couple of times, and I do have a couple questions, and I have some comments as well if I could take the time to do that. I noticed that for the surety bond, you're thinking about a $50,000 surety bond. And if I'm not mistaken, Slayton recently adopted a new dog ordinance, and I believe their surety bond is for $300,000. And I'm wondering if $50,000 isn't a bit inadequate. If somebody needs to tap into that surety bond, I think for medical reasons alone, you'd use up $50,000 just like that. So that's one question. I don't expect an answer on that. I'm just curious.
Well, let's pause for a second. We're on 2-7, subdivision 2. Dennis, do you have a comment on the surety bond? Is there?
This was the proposal that's coming forward, and it seemed to be adequate as far as we were concerned. This is the first time a larger amount has come up. This is the amount that I have seen uniformly through other communities. I'm not aware of the Slayton one requiring something higher.
Okay, Nancy, what?
Should I keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. Another comment that I have is I don't notice in the draft ordinance that there is the option for whoever is going to be enforcing this to require a neuter. And I think there are some statistics that might support that if you get to at least the worst possible situation where you have a dog deemed as being dangerous, that it seems like it might be a nice option to have written into the ordinance, not necessarily a requirement, but an option. And I believe Slayton's ordinance also has that option. And I'm just going to reference the Slayton one because it's nearby and it's recent, not that it's the best or anything. Another thing that I noticed with the Slayton ordinance is that I believe they're requiring that renters must disclose prior to signing a lease that they have a dangerous dog. And from my personal experience, the dogs that, and we've had 4 on our block within the last couple of years, even though most of the homes on our block are owner occupied, the menacing dogs that have been on our block, and now all 4 are gone, thankfully, were at rentals. And that was a question that I was going to ask Mr. Simpson, if there's ever been any research done as to the possible legality of having a few more requirements placed on dogs that are at rentals since the people are more transient, or if that's a taboo place to go.
It's kind of taboo that you're placing certain restrictions on different classes.
It would not be my intent to do that at all. I will say that we've got 3 different landlords who own rentals in our neighborhood, and one was Johnny on the spot, and the other 2 were much more complacent about it. Another question I have is, and I didn't see it, it may be in here, whether or not we are going to require a notification once an animal is deemed a dangerous dog. Are we going to require a notification if the owner and the dog move somewhere else? And has anybody thought about the possibility of a dangerous dog registry where there would be, probably would have to be on a city website, where a photo of the dog and the violations and the address of the dog could be listed for public view?
Yeah, it seemed to me registration, that's public information, but I mean, that's local here and within this building, but...
Right. And like I said, I'm not saying that all these... that I think all of these things are the way to go. I'm just trying to throw some questions out there so that my intent is to get the best possible dog ordinance and not to just quickly have one adopted so that we can have a new one. Because I want to be protected by it in the future.
I think legislative and ordinance community would agree this has not been a quick process to get us to this point.
That was going to be my comment. We've been addressing this for quite a bit. And we felt that something needed to be done, even if because right now the state legislature is talking about doing something that may make quite of this outdated, but we want something in place. Because we can come back and review it then. Right now, it's kind of wide open. And my other comment is, I don't think we can identify potentially dangerous dog by breed or type or whatever within our ordinance. If I remember right, the discussion.
Yeah, you can't ban or you can't have an outright ban, but once they're registered, then that's a difference.
In the registry.
In the registry. Yeah.
that public document, that would be the public registration. I think Nancy's suggesting is, making that publicly available.
Certainly, a couple of your comments were never part of our discussion.
Correct.
The
The neutering.
And I think I would personally like to see the an ordinance in place that's better than what we have, and we can wait till the legislative year is over or whatever, and if it needs some refinements, come back and amend it.
But will we do that? We will, okay.
I would think that you would probably not let us forget. And I think we would all agree with your opening comments that the existing ordinance is inadequate and it does need amendments.
One other thing I noticed that I thought maybe was overlooked is that it doesn't exempt police dogs.
The exemption did.
If it does, I didn't see it, so I looked through it a couple of times.
Right, it doesn't.
I'm curious what the process is for enforcing this. I kind of have a vague idea of, if we have an animal that does this, then it can be deemed potentially dangerous, and if it does this, then it can be deemed dangerous. But what kind of documentation has to occur, and what public entities have to become involved for the process to...
Right. I'll start with this and then Dennis can continue, but the enforcement has been difficult because of the lack of this type of an ordinance that is specific enough. Dennis has recent experience, obviously.
That's right. But we also have a community services officer from the police department is here who kind of falls on her shoulders or his shoulders, who's ever in that role, and you can maybe speak to that a little bit, Karen. It's they are busy out there getting dogs and cats, and hopefully this will give you a few more teeth to help enforce.
One thing that I'd like to say initially...
Well, Karen, why don't you come forward, so
Sorry and hello. I really didn't come to speak. I really came to observe. One thing that I would like to say is that the state is working on legislation right now. It's in either one house or the other, whichever way. One thing and you had said, will we update as these things come forth? And one of the points that you brought about the neutering or spaying of a dog that's declared dangerous, which I thought was excellent, but that we didn't think about, that could be added, which I think would be very good. So they're looking at that, and if we move forward to include anything that they have foreseen to include, we could do that at a future date. But as far as enforcement for this type of, and I haven't, it has been in the process for several years. This has been forthcoming. To say that I know what the written is at this point, I can't tell you. But to know for enforcement of this, that it goes through the court system. Generally speaking, it's going to be documented. It's going to be sent to the attorney for consideration of prosecution. It's going to go through the court process if they are, and at that point to be declared potentially or dangerous. And I'm not sure which one, which way it goes depending on the circumstance. And then from that point, there's also a process for that to be turned over. In other words, a person could comply with requirements to have their certification or registration removed. So, but it is the legal process of going through prosecution to get this animal actually deemed dangerous. So I do believe that part of it, and as far as enforcement, it generally does come through a call that maybe there's a bite involved or, some kind of action, as you said, a dog that's harassing children or something like that, that it starts with that initial complaint that a person's going to make, and then the investigation, and up it goes through the scale through the legal system. Does that?
Thank you.
Kind of? Sure.
Lastly, I just have a couple of comments about the actual document. First of all, I was looking at what restraint means, and it's a little difficult for me to follow because it's mentioned in a couple of different ways, and I'm trying to determine, I believe in the ordinance we have now, the original ordinance, that restraint is defined as having your animal on a leash or within your control, something to that effect. I kind of think that now this draft ordinance says that restraint means that you have to have your animal secured on a leash, or it can be off the leash if it's on your own property. But it seems like there is a conflicting item in here.
Yeah, it was not our intent to get that restrictive. We don't have a leash law. We don't intend to have a leash law. It's either on a leash or under the owner's control, and that's not limited to the property. It can be, on a public walk that way, under control.
Okay, so under control if the dog is off the leash but by you? Is there a distance which will define under your control?
As far as the owner control a ball or a stick, and if the dog can go get it and bring it back, it's under control. I don't know. I expect that there's a little common sense to be involved here.
Okay.
Hopefully that dog, that pet is under control if they're, playing out in the park or something.
Okay.
And it says under 1450B, actually is proper control of the animal and prevent them from becoming a public nuisance. Yeah.
Okay. And then, I noticed that on page 10, under section 14-71A2B, it talks about the animal must be restrained by a substantial leash and under the physical restraint of the responsible person. And this is defining what has to be done if you end up having a potentially dangerous animal. But then on the next page at the bottom, under unconfined animals, C, off premises of owner, it states that this animal has to be securely leashed and muzzled. And I'm wondering if we missed putting muzzled in on page 10.
Well, that's what the public comment is about, to take a look to see if we have missed those. I think that's, great comment.
I was out on my sidewalk on Sunday and talking to one of my neighbors, and a couple of people walked by with what I thought was a pretty menacing-looking dog, and it was muzzled, and I felt really good about that.
Okay, so the off-premises of owner, it states muzzled there. The previous site was on the previous page.
Yeah.
And that's
Under A to B
right.
on page 10.
You see the word substantial leash, you're just wondering if it also
And-
shouldn't be a muzzle requirement.
Well, it's saying that on one page, but not on the other.
Yeah.
And I think it would be a nice thing to add or to keep, but that's just my opinion. I think that's it.
Well, thank you for your comments.
All very good
Thanks.
comments.
Thanks.
Other public comments as part of the public hearing? I guess the question in my mind is, this started and certainly is addressing a serious issue, dangerous dogs. Why are we adding cats in there? Is there a reason from either the department or legal or the committee?
I believe that's a committee request. I know we do have an issue with feral cats. I think most of the cats that are picked up are wild cats. And I think there's just been the request, if we're requiring some vaccination, if there's a concern about rabies, why not have all the animals that might potentially have that be vaccinated and licensed? So that was a
some talk too that if it's a house cat, that never leaves the house, that was one situation, but there are a number of, according to the police, Karen, you were that wild cats running around town.
If you look at the statistics of how many cats are returned to their owners as opposed to how many we have a year, you'd see that, yes, the majority are what I consider a feral or a domestic that's been turned loose and living, as a feral cat. There's just a lot more of those. And my only question with it was, see, technically cats are to have rabies vaccination the same as a dog, which means they should be wearing that tag, whether they're at home in their house or out on the street. And that just simply doesn't happen. So to me, the idea of whether you want to generate revenue through licensing isn't even an issue for me. The cat should already be wearing a tag, so if an owner has a problem with them wearing a collar, by law, they're already required to have that because they're supposed to have rabies vaccination.
Yeah, the reason I bring up the question, a number of communities, including I believe St. Paul, has ordinances on feral cats, but this doesn't differentiate at all between a feral
Right, it doesn't, no.
cat and house. Other comments as part of the public hearing?
Make a motion to close the public hearing. Second.
Motion by Charlie, second by Mike. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. We can now consider the ordinance, and in considering the ordinance, also would consider the public comment that was made during the public hearing. Any questions about the ordinance?
Well, I believe that some legitimate questions were raised here, but as the LNO committee indicated, we would be looking at this again as soon as the state legislature is out of sessions, and we would be looking at this, and I would rather see something in place that can be modified than to not do it. We've been dragging this out far too long already.
However, if in the adoption of it, the language, simple language changes like the insertion of it under 1471 to A to B, to just insert that word muzzle, make it consistent with the language further.
That's right.
Yeah.
Also, the and cats on page 5 in 2 locations.
And cats.
1424, the heading, and 24B, first line. We can add that.
I'd make a motion to approve the ordinance with the 3 additions that we just talked about. And address this ordinance at another date. The updated state gets done.
Motion by Charlie, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mike. Discussion?
And when the fee to be set later, we'll bring that up at the next meeting or something in the fees and rates.
Other discussion on the motion?
Well, the reason for the fee thing was to be consistent with our other ordinance, that they would be set by resolution once a year when we go through all of so we wouldn't have to go back and change the ordinance. Also, I'd like, of course, when this does come back, discuss the bond.
And I was just going to point that out to you, Nancy. Right now, there are 2 bills pending, one Senate, one House file. What they are addressing, sterilization of dangerous dogs, increasing the dollar amount of insurance bonding. So those things are under consideration at the legislative level right now. So it may be coming back to us anyway for some of those issues.
Other discussion on the motion? Not all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. I'll consider a motion on the ordinance for publication, which is canceled. Motion by Charlie. Seconded by Jenny. Discussion? Not all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 3. Thank you. Agenda item number 3 is also a public hearing. This is a public hearing on the duties of the city administrator. Once again, Dennis.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This was also discussed Legislative and Ordinance Committee to bring both the personnel policy and the ordinance together to define the process and who has the authority on personnel matters, and this indicates that city administrator has those authorities with the appeal and review by city council. And so that proposed change is before you tonight.
Any comments as part of the public hearing? Now, is there a motion to close the public hearing? Motion by Mike, seconded by Dan. Discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion to close the public hearing, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Any questions about the ordinance then? If not, is there a motion?
Move adoption.
Motion by Larry, seconded by Mike. Discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Agenda item number 4. This is a public hearing on the improvements and considering ordering the improvement and preparation of plans on a number of projects, that being Arbor Court, Morningside Circle, Horizon Circle, Sunset Circle, Emerald Court, Noose Lane, and Village Drive. Call on Glenn Olson to conduct the public hearing, but I would also state for the record that there has been a public information meeting that was held last Thursday evening prior to this, so perhaps some of the public input may have happened at that public information meeting also. Glenn?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, we had an excellent turnout of residents from all of these areas, and we did include the Shepherd Street too because of its condition and our intent to bring that project forward as well. So we invited the neighborhoods to attend the informational meeting, and with this as the public hearing. So excellent input from the people that did attend. I think we had about 75 people or so attend that informational meeting. So I will briefly go through the projects. If there's any comments, certainly bring them up. Arbor Court, all of these courts were really taken care of as one type of project. There's the Arbor Sunset, Morningside, Horizon Circle, and Emerald Court. All of those are consisting of total street replacement, not curb and gutter, just the street replacement, and then curb and gutter replacements where necessary. Let's say that there's a drainage problem. And this one is a prime example where Arbor Court, the entire center section needs to be replaced, and there's several sections of sunken curb and gutter along the side of the street, and those will be removed and replaced individually, quite a bit in that section. But mostly taking the street off, and in the original plans there's 6 inches of gravel, 3 inches of bituminous material. And now most of that bituminous material is either diminished from the bottom or diminished from the top. So there's not much left of it. That was essentially what was called the 5-ton road at the time. We're replacing it with what we call a 7-ton road. That's what our residential street section has been, at least since I've come. We're going to put in a minimum of 9 inches of gravel and 4 inches of asphalt. But many of the cases here are situations where drainage sump pumps, water underneath the asphalt is contributing to the problem. So we are planning on putting in tile on the inside of the curbs all the way around the street. We had considerable discussion about that design as far as the public went, and they wanted to make sure that we placed those tiles as low as possible so that they can connect either their sump pumps or their tiles that they have around their homes to that to drain away. We certainly would do that. Some of, at least on the Shepherd, and that's not one of ours tonight, but I'll mention it, you have several freeze-thaw cycles, it damages the pavement as well. But it is a much better section. It's as economical as we can get for the money that we're going to spend. So that's the court. Emerald Court, we talked about a little bit more, and that there is really no storm sewer in the area. So we were wondering how we were going to get the drain tile to work. We decided we would take that drain tile to the existing drainage ditch on the north side of this subdivision area, the north side of North Main Street. So we did find a way to daylight that water out as well. Noose Lane, a little different situation. And then it's a linear street that has the same type of problem. And all of this street was developed before Lion Street was installed. Lion Street was a rural section, and this portion was designed first and all drained to that ditch. And so there was no storm sewer installed at that time. It was just surface drainage to this ditch. Well, now that that's installed and there's major storm sewer along here, and this is where the storm is collected from F Street, and essentially all of this goes down to those catch basins. So we thought, well, maybe it would help if we intercepted some of this water down F Street. Well, it did cost, our estimate is about $18,000 to do that, and we would assess that to the drainage district, and everyone, including us, thought that was probably more than it was worth. And so we discussed that with the property owners, and felt that with the tiling that we would put in underneath and the availability of those tile lines for the neighborhood to connect their tiles to, that would do as good a job as what we would want to do and not spend the extra $18,000 on it. Village Drive is a little different, and the same type of work I just talked about with the surfacing, but in this case, the water main is shot, and Mamunas requested us to replace the water main on the entire section, and we did then televise our sanitary sewer. We let people know that if either the sanitary sewer or the water main is bad, we always check with the other utility to see what kind of conditions that they receive. So we check the sewer, and there's not a reason now to go and replace the sanitary sewer, so it's just the water main will have to be done on that side. One comment that we made there as well is that we do our best to, if we haven't had water breaks in the last 5 years that were considerable, and the sanitary sewer looks good, we overlay it, and by golly, thank you. By golly, the next year we have a couple of water breaks. Well, we do the best we can in finding out what types of mains are there before we do an overlay project, but this was one that was necessary. That's all of the projects, and that's what we're planning to do with them. And if there's any questions from council or anyone here, I certainly invite comment.
Glenn, you say these are all 5-ton now?
They were designed as 5-ton, whether they were constructed that way.
Okay, as part of the public hearing, any additional comments from the council? Members of the audience, any comments as part of the public hearing?
Jason was there that night. Any comments? Okay.
What I want to talk about is not on the agenda.
That's right. It was a good meeting.
I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Motion by Charlie, seconded by Mike. Discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion passes. You have the resolution then before you that would order the improvements and the preparation of the plans. Any questions about that resolution? Now, is there a motion?
Make a motion to order the plans and improvements. Second.
Motion by Charlie, seconded by Mike for the resolution ordering the improvements and preparation of plans on the projects that were discussed at the public hearing. Discussion. Note that does not include the Shepherd Street because that's a later action. Other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 5 is the consent agenda. Several items on the consent agenda. A new plumber's license application for Troy Olson doing business as B&D Plumbing and Heating Incorporated. Temporary on-sale liquor license for SMSU Mustang Booster Club for a June 8th event at the SMSU Conference Center. Third is temporary on-sale beer license for the Marshall Softball Association from May 5th, 2008 to November 5th, 2008. Fourth is the renewal of the plumber's license for Jeffrey Rogowski, doing business as Lake Country Mechanical Incorporated, and Tony McChesney, doing business as McChesney Mechanical Incorporated. And then finally are the bills and the project payments, and also on the consent agenda are the building permits that have been, for information purposes, they have been previously approved by city staff. Is there any item on the consent agenda any member of the council wants removed for separate discussion?
E.
Other items? If not, is there a motion for consent agenda items A through D?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mike, seconded by Larry. Discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. 5E, the bills and project payments chart.
I got a question. Page 12 of the bills and project payments. It's not, it's the backside of E56. It's page 12, check register. 2510, the bottom entry for USA Aquatics for $147,322.75. I'd like to know how that amount was reached.
I can maybe respond to that. That's the amount in the contract, and it included the design of all of the facilities, even the ones that weren't awarded or approved. And it was by contract that went through council at some point in time, back in January or whenever it was.
It went through council on February 4th. In the fee schedule, it says, first of all, the schematic design development was $10,000, we paid that. Second was construction documents and bidding. This is based on the estimated of date 138, 8% of the estimated cost, or cost estimate. And that's got a or $154,000. Now 8% of 1.1 million doesn't come to 147,000, and it's 147,000 is not 154,000. So I don't know how they got that figure. And I guess my contention in this is that when I've talked to several architects this last couple of days, they think paying $147,000 plus the $10,000, $157,000, $260,000 project is a little steep. They think $88,000 for the $1.1 million bid should have been sufficient. And I guess I'm amazed. I'm amazed that we're going to spend this kind of money. And I'd like to have some kind of accounting for it.
Maybe now is a good time to come up. Yep, may as well come up now. I think maybe just the response to the beginning of that was, I think the 8% is based upon the estimated design construction cost, which was $1.5 million, I think it was. I haven't done the math there, but and I don't think
That still give you 120.
and I don't think anyone is here from Parks and Rec. Tom, any comments on the contract itself and the dollar amount?
In the contract, there was the $10,000 for the schematic design, and then $144,606 for the construction documents. Then there was also the reimbursable expenses, 2007-16-75. So the $144,606 plus the $2,716.75 brings you to the $147,000 that was paid.
Maybe you could introduce yourself.
Introduce yourself for the record.
My name is Rick Schaefer. I'm with U.S. Aquatics. I was involved heavily in the mostly with contracts, so forth, also with the design process that it went through to get it to where it is today. The contract amounts are based on 8% of the
8% of what?
of the estimated construction cost, which is of the two bids that came in, one was, I believe, 4% under our estimate. The other one was, I believe, as much as 28% under our estimate, which is in this bidding season, this past spring, has been where that contractor has been bidding. He's been consistently well under our estimates. So it's nothing that we've been able to predict.
The 8% is 8% of what figure?
The total construction cost that we had estimated for all Phase 1, all the alternates, everything that we designed, would have been $2.3 million. That would have been for the splash pad, that would have been for the replacement of the pool floor, that would have been for the slides, and everything else around that, all the mechanical.
The bid that we got in our books last time, it said your estimated cost for alternates 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you excluded number 2 out of, or when you took one of them out of it, it came out to $1.558. $1,558,050. That's your estimates.
The final design that went to bid changed several times during this process, and so the estimates were forced to change very rapidly. I'm going on in a budget estimate dated January 23rd, is what I just read these numbers on.
So the 2.3 at 8% comes up to...
2.3 at 8% comes up to $190,000. So we did not bill for that total amount, and that is the total amount of the work that we attempted to design.
Okay, now my question is this. Who owns that paperwork after it's done? I mean, that design development document, construction document, who owns those?
We own the documents with a limited use license. That means that the city has a right to use that work to construct that facility, to make copies as you need to.
And so at some point we want to finish this design, hire somebody else, we'd have complete ability to do that.
Correct. And the contract documents do take that into account.
They're not copyrighted up.
They're copyrighted by us, but you have the right to use them. For example, if you go forward with construction and you decide to perform the management of that construction on your own, hire a construction management company, any road that you choose, you have a right to build that facility, yes.
It means we can't hand them off to you.
You can't, right, correct. We don't want, copyrighted as in, you can't use it as a template to design a facility somewhere else. They've been specifically designed to this site. You can, if it were to go into redesign and you wanted to use these documents as a reference for another design professional, that you can do for here. They couldn't, for example, be sold to another city for their use in building another. It's only to protect liability, but you have the rights that you need in order to use those documents. What you've paid for is the service to design a facility.
I think it's still incredibly high for a $1.1 million project. And I guess if no one has a problem with that, that's up to this council in order to approve the contract 43 and give access on the sale.
Charlie, if we agree with you 100%, but I think we were over the age of 21 and we were mentally competent that night, so we are not out to dry.
Absolutely.
And we need to remember that the next time we enter into contract, is to look at the fine print a little closer.
And we've got to make sure we're operating on the pump before they put this up for.
Yeah, that would help.
I would entertain a motion to move forward.
I've got another bill question.
Okay?
Back on page 5E4, on the left-hand side, the page is not numbered. The second to last one, 1446. We spend a lot of time as a council working on adopting budgets. The budgets are supposed to be a guidance or authorization. The city has to budget. If you look here, we're writing a check to Custom Signs, Inc. for $1,500. I asked Tom for the information and the invoice. In essence, someone, the law enforcement, apparently Department of Public Service, entered into a contract to buy a speed monitor,
That was part of that grant that we received.
but it was never in the budget, I don't believe.
The grant was received in January or February.
That's right, it was received, and it had in there that this piece of equipment would be purchased with those grant monies.
If you recall it.
None of it was in February, but anyway. Total came to $6,777.35, of which $1,500 here is being paid out of the Safe and Sober grant. And the Marshall Crime Fund is going to pay for the rest of it. I guess I'm only saying a word of caution that either we get the budget amended and this authorized. The way it's done, we end up with a piece of equipment that we basically never authorized in the budget process.
But when we accepted that grant, and that was the $1,500 purchase of that. And that was in this current year.
Yes. And we should amend our budget to show capital expenditure. That, at the end of the year, we always adjust our budget. This needs to be something that needs to get addressed there, and it's shown as a piece of capital equipment. But basically, it goes to the issue that the auditor was bringing up, at least. Some of our internal control procedures are just a little bit, need some tweaking. That's it.
Any other questions on the bills? Not, I'm open for a motion. Motion by Jenny, second by Mike. Discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Janie, you have the vote. Agenda item number 6, Marshall Area Chamber of Commerce Transportation Committee report. With us tonight is 2 members of that committee, but I would call on Mr. Steve Strauss, who's been leading that committee.
Pardon me while I guess. Would you make sure
It's my pleasure to be here tonight and give you a brief update report on the Transportation Committee's venture to Washington, D.C. that we made on April 7th through 9th. Inside your packet is a cover memo that we used with our presentations to the parties in Washington that we met with, just to give them a brief background and history on the Transportation Committee, how it was formed, a little bit of its evolution, who are members of the committee, and then also designated who was in attendance at our sessions. And Dave Sturrock is with me tonight. He was one of our group of 5 that attended. Dave Sturrock, Jeff Monica from the Schwann Food Company, Doug Weiser, our consulting engineer out of WSB Inc. in St. Cloud, and Ed Kane, who I think some of you recognize that name, is a legislative lobbyist. He's our legislative consultant out of LAI in Stillwater. So that was the contingency that made up our travel. We left Monday night later in the day, gathered at the hotel later that night, and met early the next morning and moved through our course of meetings. The memorandum that I have attached reviews with you the following meetings in the order in which they took place. And then I've attempted to give you some bullet point highlights of the items that came out of those individual meetings. Generally speaking, I would say we were well received. It was very positive. Our opening meeting was with Mr. Bill Richards, as I've explained, is the administrative assistant to Congressman James Oberstar, who is the 8th District Congressman of Minnesota, who also happens to sit as chairman of the House Transportation Committee at this point in time, a very influential position. Our 2 hired guns, if you want to call them that, were very much comfortable with Mr. Richards, knew him very well, were familiar with Mr. Oberstar's office, and I think made the setup for the meeting very good. We went through our presentation with Mr. Richards. He liked the projects as we had them identified. He felt that we had our information well prepared and placed together. The thing that I guess surprised me anyway was how quickly he moved to the concept of, this is all good and fine, but think big. And they were very much supportive of us thinking of Trunk Highway 23 as a corridor. And they understood our concept that in our project book in our last graphic where we've used the map that I believe one of your students so willfully put together, Dave, in his class last fall, that shows what we've come to call the transportation donut in southwest Minnesota, where there's a big hole in the center as far as it relates to proximity to access to 4-lane transportation. And Bill was very supportive of us to think in terms of that. I believe, if I can quote him correctly, our Project 4 and 5 talked about getting design and research monies maybe allocated for the concept of 23 as a 4-lane. His statement was kind of like, the congressman doesn't really like to spend money on a lot of design, and so he'd rather turn dirt. I'd just go try and develop some cost factors for what we're talking about. So, wasn't that a fair statement? I mean, we were all like, okay, sounds interesting. So, he was very much in tune along that line. The transportation group out of Wilmer had been out literally just the week before. And we were encouraged very much to think, as we had mentioned to you folks earlier, that we want to build this to a regional coalition. We were very encouraged in all of our meetings to make sure we move that direction. And they encouraged us to maintain contact with the Wilmer group, because they want us to think more than just a 4-lane corridor from Marshall to Granite Falls. They think it ought to be the entire concept of opening up the 4-lane corridor. That's a rather grandiose thought at this point in time. But at least right now, we've got people in the right places that are not telling us to not poo-pooing us, telling us to go away and leave them alone. They were telling us to pursue at least the thought and the conversation of that. So with that, we left that meeting and moved to Senator Klobuchar's office, met with a young man by the name of Mark Wilson, who was, again, very welcoming, liked our presentation. He has been in Marshall. He was here with the senator last summer when she paid a visit. Again, was also supportive and said that he could understand our concept, and he moved right to the 4-lane discussion as well. Of course, we started bringing that up after it was so boldly presented or pushed in Congressman Oberstar's office. We kind of moved to some discussion about how even if money were no option, and tomorrow we knew that they were going to make 23 into a 4-lane corridor, these projects that we have as 1, 2, and 3 are still very valid and need to happen in order to preserve the 23 as it would pass around Marshall with the interchange at County 7, the grade separation of Saratoga, and the pedestrian underpass of 23. So that kind of became our theme of these projects need to happen if this whole concept were to come about. One thing I forgot to mention, I think I did put it in writing, though, in the Congressman Oberstar's office, Bill Richards did suggest and began the process in place to try and arrange for the congressman to visit Marshall and Southwest Minnesota sometime in the June-July timeframe. So that would be, it's always nice when they come, especially not to their home district, to look at a project. So if we can pull that off, I think that would be a real plus. Let's see, the afternoon, the second, we met with Jordan Tauge out of Senator Coleman's office. They were having a rather hectic day that day. General Proteris was testifying, and of course Senator Coleman is on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, so he had to give testimony that afternoon, so they were kind of running around dealing with all those issues, but we still had a nice conversation. They took our information in hand, and Dave informs me that the senator is to be in Marshall this week?
Friday morning.
This Friday for something. So we're hoping that we can find our way over there to say hi, shake hands, and ask him if he's had a chance to review our information. So, again, the information was received, well received. In the afternoon, we met with a legislative staffer, a gentleman by the name of Jim Kolb. He is kind of the main traffic cop from the legislative process for the House Transportation Subcommittee on Highways and Transit, which most of these things would go through that subcommittee and work its way to the overall transportation authorization bill. And it was good to visit with him, put our plans in front of him, had to give him a geography lesson because he's from Buffalo, New York. So I had to explain to him exactly where and what we were talking about, but that was fine. He was receptive. He was a wealth of knowledge, of course, in explaining to us the process that they will be going through as they build this next transportation bill, and the timing of which they'll start on that within the next 6 months and hope to have it done by fall of '09, if I recall. So that's... we'll see where that proceeds from there. We met with Congressman Waltz's office on Wednesday morning. Again, this was something that we had they encouraged Ed to line up a meeting with us because, for us, because Congressman Wallace is on the House Transportation Committee. He's the representative from District 1. As Bill Richards pointed out to us, he thought it was good we were having that meeting as well, too, because he reminded us that in 2010 there's a new census, and there is some speculation that Minnesota may lose a House seat, and if they do, that will, of course, force redistricting. And given where we are geographically, is it 20-some miles, Dave, from roughly? We could end up in District 1. Which means if he's still in office, he could become our representative. So it was worthwhile to tune him in, and we met with a young man out of his office, Dennis Balzovich. Our last meeting was with Congressman Peterson's office, and it was a very nice final meeting for us. We got there early, got started with Robin Gurecki, who is one of his main legislative directors and works specifically in areas of transportation. And then we were also, had the opportunity, Congressman Peterson did show up and spent between 30 and 45 minutes with us FaceTime, so that was very good. And I've recapped for you in there what transpired in those sessions. He again was supportive. We thanked him for the words of wisdom he provided for us last summer when we met with him, and the tips and pointers he had given to us. He again thought that we'd put our projects together. He was supportive of talking the bigger picture, and he was definitely supportive of us moving towards a regional coalition. They had already indicated out of their office that they were going to ask in next year's appropriations bill for $1.65 million as it would pertain to Project 1. Which, if you look at the breakdown on that, a lot of that is the design and development money for that. And as we departed, Robin Gurecki wanted us to come back and actually rethink our concept and develop, if you will, rename our project and look at packaging the whole thing together, all three or four of our projects. So they were, again, very receptive, very full of ideas. We plan from here, the next steps, Ed Kane will be in Washington either next week or the week after. He will follow up individually with all these people, make sure that they've gotten the information they need and that it has gotten on to the people that it needs to get on to. We will also be trying to arrange a meeting with the Wilmer folks to visit with them. Glenn and I were able to attend a MnDOT press conference a week ago Thursday when they flew around the state announcing their construction projects for the year. And I did have a chance to visit with Dave Troyne, the district engineer. Told him that we wanted to come and review our meeting with them, and they were more than open to that. They've been very supportive of what we've are trying to get accomplished. And then I think one of the next big things we'll begin to work on is this regional coalition concept. Move from there. Dave, have I missed anything? Okay. A little longer than I thought, but questions from any of you?
Thank you, Steve. Questions for Steve?
Okay.
No, it's very good. You, Jeff, and David are to be commended for taking the time to not only work on the professional material along with the rest of the committee, but also take the time to do the visits in Washington and also do the follow-up here.
Well, the work's just begun now. We've got the idea out in front of people we have to follow up on.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item number 7, Marshall Aquatic Center pool construction, observation, and administrative services discussion. Len, you want to start this?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor and Council. Rick Schaefer, if you would come forward. I asked Rick to attend tonight for a couple of reasons. We've gone through a thorough process of awarding a portion of the And part of the next step was the discussion of the observation services for that construction. And I've been in contact with a couple of council members at least, and we wanted to diminish as much as possible the observation services through U.S. Aquatics while still having a good project. I asked Rick to discuss that at his office, and the response was that he did need to talk to his attorney about how little inspection they could do and still make it a project that they could stand behind. And so I asked them to come and talk about that, and I asked them also to identify what the cost might be on a per-visit basis. His response there was that's difficult to do sometimes if they don't have the control over which phases of the project that they would be here. But I did identify some things for council to think about. Those portions of the project that I think that the designer should be participating in are the pre-construction conference, which meets with the contractor, the city, the owner, and the designer to identify that scope of work that we're going to do. And they're the only ones that are really inherently knowledgeable about the design plans and specs that they put together. Yep, we can read them and we can interpret them and we can do that ourselves as well. But I think it is something that's fairly critical to at least discuss. Shop drawing reviews. There's several shop drawing reviews, and even though we only awarded the reconstruction of the pool floor and the diamond bright, there are some critical inspections that need to be taking place. Demolition, we don't need to have them there tearing the floor up. Okay, we all know how to tear the floor up. And we know where the limits of the demolition are. Now, some of those locations, they need to be careful, the contractor does, about when they do the demolition to cut the pipes off at the proper location, those kinds of things that we can talk about in advance. But prior to the concrete pours, to make sure that everything is done in accordance with tolerance in the specifications. The Diamond Bright installation, none of our pool people are knowledgeable about Diamond Bright finish installation. We want to be certain that the finished product was a finished product that we want, whether that's temperature, moisture conditions, consistency of the mix that they're putting on, all those kinds of things, if left just up to the contractor, might be difficult for us. And then any questions, and they don't have to be here for this, but any questions of the design versus contractor questions that some we can answer pretty easily, some we may have to have some discussions with. And I think those types of questions are specifically related to maybe what we've already paid them to do. It's an interpretation of the plans and specs that they've already made. So something we will talk about. Rick and I have not been able to talk in the last couple of days about the per site visit cost. But to me, it took at least 6 site visits to do what I've just talked to you about. And I haven't talked to Rick about that at all.
I think it's going to take at least that.
Okay, and so I wanted him to come, and we're going to be starting this project tomorrow. And we don't have a contract with them, and we don't intend to until we have this discussion with them. And I think it's important that maybe, Rick, if you could now, after you've talked with your attorney and things too, some indication from U.S. Aquatics on what you feel on this project for just the phases that we have awarded.
Right, as far as construction phase services, there's a minimum standard and so forth that we have to try to adhere to. It's for our protection and yours. It's not just an attempt to try to capture a contract. Glenn is very capable, and you see you have a lot of faith in him. He's shown himself to be capable. However, Glenn, as you point out, doesn't have a lifetime of experience with pool construction. There are also items that are related to the design. How was the rebar intended to be put together? What kind of shell is it? What the mix of the concrete and so forth? There are a number of particular items that kind of need an experienced eye. Some of those items do change slightly depending on area and do require the signed engineer's kind of overview. One of them is aggregate in the concrete. Generally speaking, when we get a mixed design for concrete for each project, wherever they're done, there's something slightly different in the mix, and it has to do with what the plants in the area are capable of putting together as far as what is the aggregate available in the area. That needs kind of a little bit of a review. Is it appropriate? Do we need to make an adjustment to account for that aggregate? Diamond Bright is a type of product. If it's done right, it'll last you for 30 years, longer than that. It doesn't take a lot for a contractor to put it in right. There are a few things that a contractor can do that could cause it to go horribly wrong. These are the items that really we need to, if we're to be involved in the construction phase of the project, we want to make sure that we're involved enough to make sure that the job is done. Below that level of involvement, we're simply not involved in the job enough to try to make sure that you are getting what we've designed and that we're overseeing the contractors enough so that we're comfortable with the product that we've left you when we walk away from it, when we're all done.
Are you in agreement with the four major components that Glenn outlined?
Yes.
You're involved with that minimum level of involvement, the pre-construction conference, the shop drawing review, the Diamond Bright finish installation, as well as the questions about.
I think that we should also be present for before the actual shotcrete is put in place to inspect the rebar to make sure that it has all been done properly.
Concrete inspection prior to.
Correct. There's a lot of subtle issues with the rebar that need to be inspected with a close eye. And it's not a complete inspection of the entire process. I mean, the contractor's responsible for means, for methods, for the schedule. That's all tied into the contractor's contract. They can't get out of any of that. What we're doing is just making sure that the specification is followed. Did they tie the rebar at the right intervals? Is it spaced properly? They bent it right? Is all the overlaps correct? I mean, there's a whole checklist of items to check for before the concrete is placed. It's a double check system. They're still responsible for that rebar, but getting another set of eyes on it is very important. Make sure that every item has been adhered to in the specification.
They actually have to submit that layout for approval prior to placement.
Correct. That's one of the shop drawings is whoever's fabricating the rebar. They're not allowed to bend it on site. They have to submit to us a plan for bending it and installing it.
So you and Mr. Olson are in agreement with.
And this is our first conversation since I asked them to discuss it with his attorney, so that's what I wrote down as far as the city should be requiring them to do that. My recommendation.
Part of the discussion with the attorney is we trying to do a more minimal service is something that we haven't attempted to do to date. It's without another design professional involved. We've done it where there was an architect involved who simply asked us not to be involved in the construction phase services. At that point, the contractor was written with that in mind, that once the documents were handed over, that was their responsibility. But in a circumstance where we were the lead consultant on a project, how do we write a contract that does cover all the appropriate liabilities. I have an attorney review all contracts. It's just simply standard practice. But then I asked the attorney to help us write a different kind of contract. At that point, it was kind of pointed out that there's a minimum that we just simply shouldn't go underneath. It leaves us and you vulnerable. And I did forward a new contract with a new price on it for reduced level of services, given that so far to date you've only awarded base bid and the dynamite. So therefore the total scope of responsibility is reduced.
How much was that? I didn't
I apologize. I emailed it to both you and Harry, but the total amount on that was $14,300.
If you remember, the original contract was, I believe, $34,000,
Right.
but that was for the inspection of
The construction contract? The construction contract at 2.5%?
Correct.
That we had on February 4th?
yeah, it was like $30-some thousand.
Right. We initially wrote one before you had decided which phases to award that just had the whole amount in it. Just because we were asked to give something. To give something with a sliding scale, difficult, not knowing which alternates you were going to award at the time.
You could help me out, how much was the dollar amount that we did award it?
On February, well, $260,000.
$260. So,
Glenn, I got a question.
yeah.
On this contract you got that we approved on February 4th, in that is the construction and administration startup
Yep,
fee.
we kept that out. We awarded it without the construction fees.
It's not noted that way in the minutes, though.
It should be, because the contract itself, it says TBD, to be determined in the construction-based services. And I was just looking for approximately what this percentage was.
I guess I don't understand why we don't have what's on somebody's computer to look at.
As far as the contract that was previously signed, I have a copy if you'd like to look
The
at
one
it.
that you emailed or
The
whatever.
one I just emailed, I have a copy of that with me also. I have one copy, apologize. I don't
I'd
have
like
it.
to take a look.
You bet.
Yeah, you guys have been able to look at it.
And Glenn, it's pretty much identical to the one that I know you received with the different amount on it.
Actually, that's probably better than what I was suggesting.
That's better than trying to do it per site, because at that point, we're on the hook for a given amount of service that we have to give, that we have to try to go, if anything, beyond that.
The direction needed from the council tonight, Glenn, for the project to,
I would recommend approval of that tonight, knowing what that is. Yeah. Because that one is better than what I suggested for, and I was expecting it to be somewhere around the $15,000 range for the site visits and documentation. So,
And this involves resolving any Department of Health issues,
Correct.
change orders, aid trips, maybe we can find out.
And that is worded so that at critical points in the contract, right? Rather than just, we know that there's so many points that we have to come visit. If there's additional critical points, then we're on the hook for that also.
that's usually for both of us to decide. If I would decide that there is a critical spot, let's say Tom hopefully comes up and says, there's an issue here, and I can't resolve it here, I would call them all that a critical point, whether they do or not.
It could be, they began trenching under a deck to install pipe and found a considerable obstruction that needed to be, that we needed to come out and see and plan for. If they were to begin taking out the pool floor, and were to find something under the pool floor that would cause concern, perhaps some soils that weren't expected to be found under the pool floor. Again, an issue to be addressed.
So Glenn, your recommendation?
I would recommend that we approve that.
What other expenses are included in the other expenses?
Where it says estimated?
$100.
If we have to do additional copying, it's to reimburse for some of the mileage. If we have to make a lot of trips out here, it's simply estimated that when we attempt to get involved in a project that is away from our office that we have to drive to, that we're going to incur some expenses.
We're thinking it's not going to take many, if any, more than the number he's got listed there, because we have to be done with this project by June 4th, weather permitting.
Yeah, it's going to be quick, so if we can pile up inspections and visits.
I wouldn't expect many more visits than that.
You have the recommendation from Glenn Olson. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second. Motion by Larry, seconded by Mike. Discussion? Not. Call for a vote on that motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Show of hands. All those in favor of the motion for to enter into the observation and administrative services, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Jane, we have the vote. Thank you. We look forward to a good project.
Thank you. We'll do our best.
This time I'm going to call for a 5-minute recess. Water user charge review study. We have the information before us. Glenn, you want to?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. This one, maybe Councilmember Sandlin too can help us out a little bit. We went through a procedure for getting the study for what we wanted to update in our wastewater user charges. And that was really both for operation and for capital, and how to bring that forward. So we put out a request for proposals. We got 2 out of the 3 that we had asked for, and you can see they're significantly different in cost, but we believe the basic scope is still the same. So we're recommending the award of these services to Bolton Mink, hourly not to exceed $7,400, and we indicate too where the funding for it is to come from in the existing budget.
Okay, any questions on this or comments?
Yes, Glenn, I guess reading over the scope and so on, there's an awful lot of talk about reviewing and summarizing what we've spent in the past. What do we have? Springstead has been doing this every year for us. Why are we, I mean, there shouldn't have to be a lot of that type of stuff being done.
There won't be a lot, but it will be bringing that material in. That's, I believe, one of the reasons why the cost is down there, is because we told them that we have this information available to them.
Didn't that explain it very well then? But, obviously the fair and equitableness and charge for whatever, that is outside of the expertise. But certainly the rest of this, out of that first page for those 6 items, we got at least 3 or 4 in-house.
They are available. They are available, but they're looked at from a different perspective. They're looked at from the user charge perspective of the residential, commercial, industrial user, rather than maybe the financial end. Charlie, any comments on that? I think we wanted to...
I think we were suggesting, Brad suggested it to us as we were discussing this, to move forward, to look at how we're going to finish our rate structure on the bill. And there's a little different view of what an engineering type firm would take and how they account for their costs and how they account to recover their base costs, their capital improvement, and everything else, a lot differently than you would when you look at someone that does it like Springstead from the financial point of view. And so he suggested that we bring this forward. The last one is years ago.
10 years.
That we had an engineering firm look at this, and, for $7,400, I think it'd be a great idea to go forward and get that information, because it's going to help Springstead even do a better job for us when they got that piece along the rest of their roads. So that was the purpose.
Okay.
Was this part of the 2008 budget or not?
It specifically wasn't, but there
The
is...
funding is coming from the wastewater.
Yes. There's usually an amount set aside for consulting expenses. Bob, I think that's what the line item is. And almost every year we have something that we do there, and it was earmarked, and then we'd use that fund for this.
The other side of that, Mr. my program is this, that we want to change the way the bill reads instead of just doing a base fee and saying, well, that covers the first whatever. We want to do a base fee that covers the amount of money that it's going to cost us to be ready to serve those customers. So, Springstead doesn't look at it that way financially, but engineering firm will look at it that way financially. So we can put that piece in, and then Springstead can figure out what we're going to need to operate and by each user's fee.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? If not, is there a motion to enter into this agreement as recommended by staff?
Make motion.
Motion by Charlie, seconded by Mike to enter into the wastewater treatment facility user charge review with the Olson & Zink Incorporated firm for an hourly not to exceed $7,400. Discussion. Not all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 9 is...
It wants to know what to approve.
We vote.
What to approve? What to approve? It is the board.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions on that? Agenda item number 9, the wastewater treatment facility. We have a change order, consider a change order on SCADA, which is the supervisory control data acquisition system. You have a change order to present. Glenn and/or Bob.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Bob Van Moore is here. Bob, I'll ask you to come up to talk about this just a little bit. As part of our supervisory data and control, supervisory control and data acquisition projects. Wow.
Okay, thank you. Earlier on in the year, we got council approval to install a system, and it's basically installed. We had an estimate back then of $147,000 to complete the system, and it's fairly complex, and as we got into it, there was a few other issues that from previously designed projects where we can't control a pump station remotely. There's going to take some extra programming and different things like that. Also, we didn't look at a good, basically a reporting system that would come out of this. So there's a few other changes that would really help to complete the system for as far as the programming portion of it. And we got it broke out. There's like 3 different areas there that comes to just over $9,000, about $9,300 to complete it. We do have some, initially it was coming out of excess bond revenues for 2 of the larger projects at the treatment plant. There still is enough funds in there to cover this, and that's what I would propose that we would take the funds from.
Questions? Now, is there a motion to allow the change order? By Mike, is there a second? Second by Larry. Discussion. If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 10, also from wastewater, the equalization basin project. We will consider entering into the agreement with Bonus Drew for engineering services for the observation of the liner repair. Glenn and then Bob.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We're going to get Dennis involved with this one just a little bit as well. This proposed contract for services involves the inspection of a liner that failed, that was installed my previous contract and didn't last a year. It was tested, the liner that was out there was tested, and a water balance test was done. It met specifications, and during the winter, there were several sections of the liner that failed, and that was seams and the liner itself. It looks like it started at the seams and then emanated out, and as soon as you get some wind or air underneath those, it created quite a problem. The basin is unusable at its current time and has been all winter, essentially. We've been in conversation with the contractor, the supplier, the engineer, and we don't know exactly where this is going. It will have to be remedied by the contractor. Prime contractor is R&G Construction, but they have subcontractors and suppliers and installers for this specific liner. R&G Construction certainly isn't the expert on liners. They rely on their subcontractors to do that. Bob and I are experts on the liners. We rely on our engineers to be the experts in the liner business, at least as far as specifications go. There will be some ongoing discussions as far as ultimate responsibility, and you will see forthcoming in the next months when we come to the recommendations for repair, that we do not want to leave, we do not want to repair the facility and then leave it. We want to make sure that we take additional steps to remedy any future issues just like the ones we experienced. And some of those might be, and are proposed to be, ballasting of the liner that's there. Ballasting meaning putting weights down inside the liner to keep it down in contact with the base. In many locations, these liners or these ponds are filled with water much of the year for operational purposes. In our case, they're filled with water during those times of excessive runoff or infiltration, like springtime, or like after a big rain. And we're needing it for that, but we empty it other than those specific times. Maybe used a little bit differently than most applications, but Bob has been in contact with Worthington, who does a real similar thing. Their liner is ballast. Seems to be working well over the last 10 to 13 years.
It's about 18 years old, Worthington is. Yeah.
So we think that there might be some issues that we can take to minimize this happening in the future, but it will cost us additional money to do that. If something that we have the contractor do that wasn't in the original contract documents, it's not in the original contract, that's over and above that, if it would have been in the original contract, we'd have had to have paid for that. Let's say that the original contract had ballasting required. We'd have paid for that ballasting. And we will need to come back to you with something after we discuss it legally, we discuss it project-wise to see what should come forward. But Bob, I think that's going to be a minimum. We've been working on this thing now for several months of whose fault it is, and going back to how to make the repair, and the warranty is there for the liner and the seams, no doubt about that. But we don't want to just repair it and leave it and say, okay, now let's see how it works. Bob?
Yeah, the nature of the material, it expands and contracts quite a bit. It's 100 mil HDPE plastic liner. When the sun hits that or the temperatures get warm, the stuff can grow up to 13% is the specs on the stuff. So that's part of the problem. When it cools down, it contracts so much that it actually lifts up off of the base of the material, the basin. So with the ballast, that that's the recommendation that would keep this thing from moving around. If we can ballast that and hold it down, it's a very good possibility that would take care of some of the problems that we're seeing right now, so.
Where's that recommendation coming from? Moonstruck?
Bonestro has been in conversation with Simbeck, which is the installer, and Solomax, which is the supplier of the material. So they're doing some different checking with different facilities that have these types of basins, and just about all of them do have a ballast system in them.
Is this thicker than the original?
Yes, it is. We had 40 mil. It was a different type of material on the original basins.
The other comment that we have to make is that we would intend to proceed with these additional costs against the warranty provisions of the contract. We believe that any reinspection of a failed system needs to be a part of that warranty. Now, that's where a discussion with our attorney is involved and the review of the existing contract and things like that. But it would be our intent to put the contractor on notice that these additional costs would be included in that repair, because it does need to have someone there inspecting those as well. Dennis?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you're handling it, the first step that needs to be done is from the engineer, the design state. Let's get it corrected properly and not be pointing fingers at whose fault it is yet. But I mean, ultimately, that's a decision that will need to be addressed someplace, but let's get the problem remedied first. So, I've just been involved in the loop. I've received some of the copies of the correspondence back and forth, but it's not hit my desk yet to take any action.
We didn't want it to hit Dennis's desk until the contractor has provided the services that are necessary under the contract, both for the original installation, which he did, and now under the warranty provisions. If they aren't deemed to be adequate by additional design issues or things that we check out, then we'll be coming back to you again. Mike?
Well, maybe I'm old-fashioned, but I thought the reason we hired engineers, architects, was to design something that worked the way it was supposed to. And why are we paying them extra to correct a problem that apparently might be part of a design thing? That's what we hired them for in the first place. They get 8% of whatever.
I'm not sure we're paying.
But what we're talking about here now is all that original stuff was done. It was installed in accordance with the plans. And now it's a failure of the product as installed according to the plans and specs. Okay? So now it's a warranty issue. And now whether or not we should have them there to inspect the repairs, I think is necessary. It's part of that original contract warranty provision. It's not a part of the original contract because it was done, installed, approved, final payment made, water balance is done, MPCA was here, or the health department was here to do the final balance test.
Yeah, they verified the balance test.
The balance test, and it worked. Now it's a year later.
So nobody in the manufacturer, the engineers, the architects, none of these people knew that this stuff expanded?
They did, but they felt that it was adequate for that 100 mil size to take all the extremes that we have to offer. As a matter of fact, a year ago, if you remember, they had to come back and add material because it shrunk so much that it lifted off the bottom 3 to 4 feet. So they came in and actually added material to take care of that issue. And that was a sore spot to start with. But now after they added the material, now the expansion contraction failed the joints.
So why did we go with the 100 mil? Why did we choose to go with the 100 mil rather than 40 mil?
We did some looking around on other projects, and it has been the standard the last several years is the 100 mil. It's
the 100 mil with no ballast.
With no ballast, yeah. Every one is a little bit different design, and knowing now what we know, we would have ballasted right away. But
Well, we made the suggestion not to have ballast.
That's the designer, I guess, yeah. Up front, the intent was to be able to drain these things for odor reasons, not have wastewater sitting in them, getting stagnant and smelling. So the more ballast you put into them, the more potential of solids sitting in there and starting odor problems.
So what we're charged with tonight is to look at whether or not we want to enter into an agreement with Ballstrom. That I see. Yes. That's what we're up against. What's the other choice?
No.
I mean, we don't have a choice, correct?
The other choice is not, and Bob, neither one of us are going to inspect those wells.
No.
No, but I'm saying per se, this is what we got to do, and hopefully, when we're all said and done with this, the manufacturer of the liner, something of that nature, will pick these costs up. The only thing that we would have over and above this is if we add ballast or do changes that were not in the original contract.
That's our intent.
I would move to enter an agreement with Ballstrom Engineering Services for line repairs.
Motion by Larry, seconded by Dan. Discussion? Not all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Aye. Show of hands, all those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Jay, you got the vote? Move on to agenda item number 11. Consider the request for City Marshal for a conditional use permit to construct a footbridge in a floodway district on the floodplain at Liberty Park, locations 100 West Marshall Street. Once again, you have the memo. This also was considered by the Planning Commission, I believe, earlier. Glenn, you have any details you want to add?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. No, the only thing is, if you know where it's going, it's on the map, and we would recommend.
Questions, Council? If not, is there a motion? Motion by Dan, second by Mike. Discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 12 is the review of the modified master financing plans for approval of redevelopment projects number 1 and number 2. And the action would be to call for a public hearing on June 2nd, 2008, as was recommended by the Housing and Redevelopment Authority at an earlier meeting this evening. Mark, I'll call on you first. Mark Hanson, Economic Development Director.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you said prior to this, we're looking to review the modified TIF plans for project areas 1 and 2. You have in your packet both of those modifications. They're very large in size, and later on this evening I'll have Michaela Hewitt go through an overview of those modifications. And then after that explanation and questions, we'll be asking you to call for a public hearing for the approval of those modifications on June 2nd. Kayla?
Thank you, Mark, and good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. As Mark said, I'm Michaela Hewitt, representing Springstead. We've assisted the city in the past on several of their TIF districts. We are bringing forward to you tonight, has been indicated, the draft modifications to the redevelopment plans for the redevelopment project areas number 1 and 2 and the related tax increment financing districts. The request this evening is to review the modifications and also to request that the council call for a public hearing for June 2nd for final approval of those modifications. The purpose of the modifications are twofold. One is to increase the size of the project area to reflect the property that's currently under consideration for annexation. That process is going currently with the modifications of the redevelopment plans. The second is to incorporate an increased budget of costs to reflect the expenditures related to that annexation of the property. The modification, as described above, for both the increased size and or increased budget require a formal modification as required by the state statute, and there are several required steps that have to occur, including review by the HRA, which was done previously tonight, as well as notices to the county and school district and a publication of the hearing notice in the local newspaper. Once all these steps have occurred, the council can hold the final public hearing on June, or anticipated to be June 2nd. If there are any questions, I would be happy to address those regarding the modifications.
Thank you. Questions?
Motion to call for the hearing on June 2nd.
Motion by Charlie, seconded by Larry for the resolution that would call for the public hearing on the proposed modification to the modified tax increment financing district. Discussion? Not all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And item number 13, project Y32, Windstar Street from Trunk Highway 59, Clarice Avenue, Windstar to Susan Drive. We have a resolution receiving the report and ordering the public hearing on the improvement. And as long as we're on this topic, we will also, in this discussion, discuss agenda item number 14, which is Clarice Avenue from Susan to Trunk Highway 23, and we have a similar action to consider there. So then if we could, both of these probably want to explain together.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The projects that we have listed are this portion of Windstar Street from Trunk Highway 59 to Clarice Avenue. And Clarice Avenue, if we just extend that all the way up to Trunk Highway 23 again. Those are the sections of roadway that we're talking about, receiving the report and calling for the hearing. I'll leave it there.
Questions council has? If there are no questions, I'd entertain a motion first call for public hearing on agenda item 13. Yeah. For Larry, motion by Larry, seconded by Charlie, for the resolution receiving the report and calling for a hearing on the improvement of Windstar from Trunk Highway 59 to Clarice Avenue and Clarice Avenue from Windstar to Susan Drive. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 14, I would entertain a motion for the resolution receiving the report and calling for a public hearing on the project from Clarice Avenue from Susan to Trunk Highway 23.
So moved.
Motion by Charlie, second by Mike. Discussion? Hearing none, all those say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 15 is the C Street Improvement Project. And once again, we have a similar action, the resolution to receive the report and order the public hearing on the improvement.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This project is a project that extends from Main Street to just about even with the Tiger Lake Pond that we have. And the reason for that extension is the water main in that area, I believe, is 1.5 inches for the main, and it needs to be replaced. And the sanitary sewer also needs to be replaced on this section. It also then will provide a connection to the water main that was just installed under the Carr Business Park development in this neighborhood that connects to the school property. A very good improvement for water in the area and sanitary sewer that then would be able to service this future library site. But even if that's not built at this time, for these properties as well. So we recommend that we receive the report of all for this.
Questions for Glenn? If not, is there a motion? Receive the report, call for the hearing. Motion by Mike, seconded by Larry. Discussion? Not all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 16, Legion Field Road Improvement Project. Again, similar action to consider the resolution receiving a report and ordering the public hearing on the improvement. Glenn?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This one is real similar, except it's a lot longer stretch, and involves a crossing of the railroad tracks at this location. As you remember, MMU replaced the water main from this intersection south of Main Street last year, has several breaks of water main on this section and wants to replace that water main. We've also taken a look at sanitary sewer. Sanitary sewer is in tough shape on that section as well. That needs to be replaced. We're also proposing the extension of sidewalks across and connecting with the residential development here, and curb and gutter installed on the city side, I'll call it the city side of Legion Field Road. This is the parcel that we own. Those are the improvements that we're considering and going all the way up to and tying in with Main Street.
Okay, questions for Glenn?
Glenn, is that water, sewer, curb, gutter, complete replacement?
It is water sewer complete replacement, but not, and curb and gutter installation on this side, and then spot repairs on the other side. No replacement of curb and gutter where it exists and it is in decent shape.
How about the road surface?
Road surface will essentially be gone because of the remove and replace of the two utilities. I think Shane may help me out. There's probably, a section this wide.
Yeah, about 6 or 8.
That wouldn't be taken out.
Glenn, what's going back to the 8th Street properties up there in the middle? Right
That
there.
line.
Wording.
Huh?
That's words.
Mine aren't as good as yours.
It's just an arrow with some words. Yeah, not an additional word. Same thing with these. These are just yellow words.
Any other questions for Glenn?
So the sidewalk, is that funded by the Safe Route to School grant?
It is not at this time. We've thought that by doing this connect, it's still on our list, on the Safe Routes to School list. But Shane maybe comment on that a little bit.
We didn't receive a grant for Safe Routes to School this year. I'm encouraging us to pursue, rewrite that grant for future considerations by MnDOT. But we feel it's important to connect the new neighborhood there in Park 1 and 2 to the system that takes them down to the West Side School. So we really like to get the sidewalk across the railroad tracks up to Madrid and then potentially up to Parish Road as well.
What we do want to do is we want to put a 5-foot sidewalk in with the contingency that a bike path could be installed with the additional grant funds to do the other half. We would be requiring the project to have a 5-foot sidewalk anyway, but if we wanted to make that a bike path, we'd include that under the Safe Routes to School program.
Yeah, it seems like it would be a great candidate for that very reason, for that grant. And somebody else was suggesting that putting a sidewalk along the park side, Legion Field Park, because folks, they'll park there and go to the baseball game and they'll walk out in the street and, that's a detriment instead of walking.
We have addressed that as well. There is the sidewalk on the other side, the narrow one, 4 foot, I believe, on the other side. On the park side, there's a set of bleachers that's parked right where the sidewalk would go. And I don't know where we put the observers. I know that it's something that we've looked at to try to get a sidewalk on that side, but we're certainly receptive to that as well. That's one of those projects where sometimes next to the parks, if we can get both of our crews together after season's over or something like that, we can start working on sections of it.
Other questions? If not, is there a motion for the resolution? So moved. Motion by Larry, second by Mike. Discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. And agenda item number 17 is the Southview Drive Improvement Project. Once again, resolution receiving the report and ordering the public hearing on the improvement.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is real similar to the Legion Field Road And at this section of Southview from South 4th Street to Country Club, has several water breaks. The sanitary sewer is in poor condition, lots of cracks, lots of joints open, lots of protruding tabs, problems with that. So the project is to remove and replace water and sewer, which is essentially the whole street, minus about 4 feet of it probably. We're planning to keep the curb and gutter where it is, and I know there are different widths of section along there, maybe a couple feet different. On certain blocks, we're going to leave them. We'll try to take care of some curb and gutter repairs, but not replacing curb and gutter. We'll be calling also for a public informational meeting on these residential properties as well.
Very good. Any questions for Glenn? Now, is there a motion for the Southview Drive project?
I move for adoption of the resolution and call for public hearing. Second.
Motion by Larry, second by Mike. Discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. And agenda item number 18, the Shepherd Street Improvement Project. Once again, action will be the resolution or in preparation of the report on the improvement. We had some discussion of this some time ago at this meeting.
And this one is a little bit behind the process, but we're bringing it forward because it's the same information as we're giving to the other projects as well. So this one's just asking for the report, but we're kind of far down, a little bit further down the road. This is the section of the Shepherd from James to Southview that's no one, at least that came to our informational meeting, didn't think something should be done. We'll start with that. And if you've been on that street in the last month, I think everyone agrees. So we're going to initiate the improvement.
So is there a motion for the resolution ordering the preparation of the report on this improvement?
So moved.
Motion by Mike, seconded by Mike. Discussion?
Just a quick one for Glenn. Glenn, why was the Southview be rebuilt as 10-ton? The other one was lighter.
Southview is a state aid route, and that would be the only reason.
Other discussion? If not, call for a vote on that. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Agenda item number 19 is to consider authorization to dispose of surplus items either by auction or by other means. Tom?
Mayor, council members, a few years ago, authorization was given to have a city auction twice a year to dispose of any surplus property that the city may have. The practice has changed over the most recent years where we no longer have the cars to auction off at the auctions, and the bikes are being given to the organization for the kids program. Even with that in mind, we did send out memos to all the departments asking if they had any things that they had for surplus property that they wanted us to dispose of. We had gotten the information for the wastewater, city hall, and park maintenance, and the liquor store, and in talking to the people to find out what they anticipated we would generate from revenues from those different areas, it was determined that the cost of having an auction would be more than what we'd get out of the different items that we had there. The street department brought in some items towards the end which would probably generate more revenue, but we're not sure on that. And I guess when we look at alternative type of approaches to this is that the one thing that had been suggested is when it's crazy days is that park maintenance usually has balls and gloves and all this stuff that they may have for sale then, that we would just put a price tag on this stuff and have it either sitting in the lobby downstairs or out in front of the building and just sell it that way for whatever we could get out of it. And I think with the items from the street department, in some of those cases, they may be sending
correspondence out to other communities or other areas that may be able to utilize this stuff, just to see what they would get for bids on some of that stuff. Yes.
It would look with a couple items, at least with the wastewater, with the John Deere field digging, et cetera, a good place would be the salvage. I just seen there's been a lot of activity there in the last 3 weeks with the price of steel up to $200 per ton. That might be a nice place to dispose of something.
We use those numbers as our minimum price when we put a sticky on it.
Michael, that 12-foot field digger that you're referring to there with the cylinder probably isn't going to weigh 1,000 pounds.
It's $100 or more.
So you can get somebody that's going to sit in line for 3 hours.
Well, we thought...
What did you generate?
You're close to it.
Why not sit in line for 3 hours?
So our action that we're requesting at this point is for the items that are on this list to be declared as surplus property, and we'd be given the opportunity to look at these other avenues of disposing of it.
And you are looking for a motion to that effect?
Please.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Charlie, seconded by Dan. Discussion?
I have one question. You're looking at street department, that Hydro 84 and the generator in that Packer. The last 3 items on that list, you would look for bids on that prior to Crazy Days?
Yes. Yes. As a matter of fact, usually when we have an offer from another adjacent community, we consider that, and probably if it's a reasonable cost, we'll dispose of it that way.
Okay.
Yeah. Before it would even get to the front of the city hall.
There you go.
Any other discussion on the motion? If not, call for a vote on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 20 is the request for street closure from the Lyon County Historical Society for 2 events. The first would be a single-day event, the Bus Museum World War II bus exhibit on May 6th, as well as the Thursdays on 3rd, beginning June 6th and extending each Thursday until September 4th. Elaine, thank you for your patience.
I commend the council and the mayor for sitting through all these long meetings. The first request is, as you said, was May 6th. We have this bus museum coming in, and the Legion Post 113, as well as the Marshall-Lyon County Library, have given us financial support to bring this bus in so that there will be no general admission at the door to see the exhibits in this museum, which shows internment camps that were in Minnesota during World War II. And we'll probably be having some community discussions along with this showing. I believe I asked the street to be closed off at 5, and after that, they notified me that the bus will be coming in at 4:30, due to it taking about a half an hour to set it up. If that's not possible, I'll just put some cones out in front of the museum and deter parking for about 3 spaces there. Okay. Then the second item is our Thursdays on 3rd, which will be our 3rd year of that, and we've had very positive responses in the community and from the Marshall community in that this continue. In fact, Greg and Gregerson just informed me that they have they have put in 4 stations for added electricity that would take care of our vendors and our food booths and the speaker systems that we use for the entertainment. So they went ahead and did that without any request from me. Schwann's for the 3rd year is providing money for the advertising. If it's any indication, last year, which was our second year, and we had to move over to the downtown park, which I thought would really bring our attendance way down. I actually received 50 entries from vendors. In fact, as of now, I've got some requests from South Dakota that would like to come in. The only thing we have to decide on that is if we are looking at tying into the State Farmer Market organization, which is called GROW in Minnesota, so then I'm not sure we can let South Dakota come in. But anyway, it is a successful thing, and we'd like to be able to continue that by closing off the street from 5 o'clock till about 8 for this to take place. We will continue to keep the alleys open, plus the center space down 3rd Street so that an ambulance or a fire truck could get through. We will keep the vendors off from the middle part. Okay. Any questions?
Questions for Elaine?
Does the vendors, they pay a fee at all or not? Do the vendors pay a fee?
Yes, we've been charging them $10. I think we're going to raise it to 15.
Each time?
No, for the season. Yeah. We could charge a lot more, but at this point, we really don't want to discourage our vendors to come. We'll probably continue to raise it a little bit each year.
Then that's collected for the Historical Society?
Pardon?
Is that collected for the Historical Society?
I collected it, right. The money is kept separate, okay? But I act as the coordinator of this. And right now, we are also, I have requested Schwann's, and they're making a logo for us so that we will have our own stationery and everything like that.
So what do you use the funds for? What do you use the funds for?
What are the funds used for? Well, for additional advertising, for postage, where I send out to all the vendors, and that about wipes everything out.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, you have the request. Is there a motion to allow the street closure as requested?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Charlie, seconded by Dan. Discussion? The only discussion. Thank you, Elaine, for all the time and effort that you put into this. So thank you very much. Other discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
And thank you for your continued interest and support.
Agenda item number 21, Council Member Commission Board Liaison Reports. The minutes of the EDA meeting are in the packet, so I won't review those. Regional Development Commission did not have an April meeting. Mike?
Yes, the Airport Commission met last Monday. It was relatively short because Glenn wasn't there, but a couple of things came up. The MnDOT aviation. As some of you may recall, the state borrowed $15 million, took it out of their fund and spent it, and they paid it back. And they're desperately wanting to spend that money so it doesn't get taken away. They're actually going around the state encouraging people to apply for airport projects on a 70-30 basis, so they use it up. So what came up at the meeting was that might be a good time to get the bridge across the diversion channel to open up that other quarter. So Glenn may want to comment on that. And hidden away in that thing was made some reference to the zoning, so the question came up about the airport zoning board member when that was going to happen, because apparently that's supposed to be done as part of getting any money. And Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday this week, the airport symposium is at down in the Twin Cities. I will be going to 2 other members of the Airport Commission, Glenn. And the Police Commission is reactivated due to Officer lady. Our list that we just completed about 2 months ago is defunct, it's gone. There's nobody left, so we're starting the process over again. We get a eligibility list, testing, all that good stuff. That's it.
Larry?
The only one of mine that's been since last night is planning, and we acted on that tonight, also in your packet. That's it.
Jenny?
The library board met a week ago, and they discussed various things from their sale and the different dynamics that are taking place on the foundation board with Marcy leaving. But one thing that I had contacted Glenn about, their garage door is broken on their building. And, since they're renters, and we as a landlord, I was just wondering, what is the precedence? What do they pay for? What do they not pay for?
Would there be a lease someplace that would say that? A rental agreement, who's responsible for repairs?
There was an agreement that
The agreement was done back in 1975 and it's done in storage.
I believe, though, that
It's the city.
it's the city's.
We'll maintain the
city's
buildings. We'll hold and maintain the buildings. I would say it's the city building.
Well, I did submit, they'd gotten a couple of assessments for it, and so I gave it to Glenn. I think they were like $1,300 to $2,500.
And the work needs to be done.
Yeah.
It's just...
Who's gonna-
who-
And I just wanted to know, because
Yep.
if they need to pay, then they will, but...
I believe it is a city expense. Anything else?
That's it?
Dan?
All I have is the Housing Commission met last Tuesday night and also talked about the parking issues. Did anybody call you, Glenn, to tell you how it's resolved?
Yes. They brought the new policy over, and they established a new policy for times of visitors and where the residents should park.
And they know.
Good. Mike, can I skip by you?
Hospital board had a joint meeting with the city earlier this evening, and then the hospital board meeting was regularly starting after that, which I had a week for most of it. Utilities met last week, and again, the key issue there was the annual audit, which several of the council members were there for. That was it.
And Charlie?
The only question I've got is the cable, remember the cable, and they were wanting to know what happened with the request they had to clarify their job duties. When they came here before the council, they asked that the council would clarify their job duties, and at this point, they don't know if they've been clarified or if we really have any job duty changes or what we're going to do with that, so they'd like to know. We need to be able to find out about that.
I understood there was going to be a more complete presentation, or at least the material. Remember that night, he didn't have his stuff.
They would be willing to go, bring something forth to the city, saying this is what we'd like to do for you. And I think part of that was in the presentation that they gave us. But they were under the assumption that we were going to put it to a committee that would sort out what their job should be. That was their understanding from the city council meeting. So if you'd like them to come back forward with it and give a presentation of what they feel they'd like to be able to do for the city, we can ask them to do that, and they will.
I have a question. Is that the commission or the employees themselves? Is it the cable commission?
The cable commission.
Looking for their duties?
The guys looking for their duties and what their job should be, because it's not really defined in the charter. So they want to know what they should be involved in doing. And I think that whole, if you're going to leave it like it is, then you got to really see if there's any reason to have a meeting. But if you want to use them and develop that cable into something better than it is, then you may want to change some of the job descriptions and help them get into a place place where they can effectively change the cable or bring us recommendations.
This might be one of those things, Charlie, that we want to have some discussion even at a retreat session. I mean, the Cable Commission is one of those that, I mean, we have a number of commissions we ask people to serve on, their time, they give leadership to that. But that's one that maybe doesn't have a very defined role. Do we want them to be involved in the, supervision of staff? Well, that's not what their role is currently. Do we want them to be in charge of budget? That's not what it is right now. But the role originally was set up for was being the guardian of providing even the lead in negotiation of the cable franchise. However, that's largely been taken over by not only the state and the federal, mainly the federal statute changes that have governed, as well as technology changes, so they really don't have that role anymore.
But I would like to say this, that if you take a look at where the cable is right now and where it was 4 years ago, it is because some people got on that board and decided that, we need a mission, we need a goal, we need something to do, we need to change where we're headed and just float along in the boat. And it's because those people got proactive in bringing stuff forward, even though that wasn't part of the job description, that they brought forth a marketing plan, they brought forth a bunch of things that they brought forward. And that's why it's where it's at now, and it's really improved. The whole cable thing really improved, people really are enjoying it. So my thought is if we wanted to keep it, then we need to change it and give them something to do besides, that they have, and that could be in helping design some programming, doing some different things with that, not picking the help, not doing all that kind of stuff, but giving recommendations for what they'd like to do with the budget, not set the budget. Some of those kind of things where they'd like to have the input, so at some point.
And I know there was some talk at one time when I was liaison that community services should take it over, but they have enough on their plate and enough diversification and projects. I think there is a niche for the Cable Commission to work on the program, give some guidance. So yes, I think we should put it up.
I think it'd be important, they would be involved in their budget process. Like all that.
Okay, anything else, Charlie?
That's it.
Okay, council member individual items. Jenny? Larry?
None.
Charlie?
I've got one individual item that a number of months ago, it was just as we're heading into winter, late fall, Councilman Ritter brought forth a discussion that we had about the after-hour things going on down behind the Gambler and different places in town where it was putting our police officers in jeopardy. And at that time, I think we talked about maybe looking at some cold weather was going to curb it, but let's take a look at what we could probably do somewhere along. Well, right now, we've still got a problem coming up because it's starting to get warm and things are getting the same way. And we've got teenagers that are under the age of 21 driving from Worthington, from Redwood, from Pipestone, from Canby, drinking probably while they're coming here, drinking while they go home, maybe drinking while they are here, who knows. But it puts us in a situation where we've got a lot of kids that are coming to those places that from out of town and other places. I think we really need to take a look at designing some type of ordinance that would help the police officers with this issue, because I don't want to have 45 kids start a fight and have 2 officers be able to respond to it and put the officers in that danger. Maybe it's...
There's also some plans for some video surveillance back there, camera.
But, I mean, we talked about doing something with all that, but I don't think that we did. But I know. And I'd like to just bring that up so that we can...
But to put in surveillance stuff back there, we didn't approve that in the budget, and that's just being specific. I guess what my comments were during that retreat was I thought that we should take a look at ordinance to keep minors out of bars after a certain time period when the kitchens chain or closed. I think that's the trouble.
Yeah, that's the deal. If you put a limit and say at 10 o'clock, most of these kids are coming at 11, 11:30.
Yeah, when they're coming out to a bar and...
So if you do it at 10 o'clock, after 10 o'clock, mean, that's...
Well, that's an issue that could, that's not a budget issue, that could be considered by legislative order.
That's,
Yeah.
it needs to go somewhere. I mean, someone needs to start talking about the issue because I think it's very important. I've had a couple of police officers talk to me about how much they like to respond to those situations, so I think we need to...
We could talk with public safety tomorrow with Dennis and then bring it forward to Elmer. But I think maybe Elmer would like to see some written things from other communities that might have something similar.
I think a time limit would be probably that for minors to be out of the bar by 10 o'clock or something like that. I think the argument that people want to bring their kids in with them to eat would probably be done a lot by 10 o'clock. So,
I agree. Dennis, you want to also include that on your to-do list? That's what happened. Yeah. Like,
Just a couple items. I've have had requests and wondering when the public improvement transportation is going to address the speed limit sign past the trailer foot of County. Because the speed limit is 30, almost a mile out, and Country Club Drive is 40 or 45. They think 30 mile an hour is like way out there. And we talked about that once before. And what's happened with renaming of the biking lots? I guess that's sort of been on the back burner now for a while.
Nothing that I'm aware of.
Well, somebody was working on, and they were thinking Boundary Father, but where does it go from there? I mean, how do we get that accomplished?
whether we accepted the recommendation.
I think, Mike, that's been discussed at community services, and I'm not so sure that that is a part of when they finish downtown now with the trees and the planters and re-signage. I'm not so sure that they tie in with that. I'm not positive, but I think it's in there someplace.
Thank you.
The one item I have is the city administrator search process, and when you forwarded out the information. Right now, the screening, or the original schedule for screening is that week of May 5th that I believe Sharon Klum from Springston would have the screening from her part completed, and then the council would meet on, I believe, May 5th? Is that?
We were waiting for the
soon
decision. She had those dates available.
So Kathy, polled all the council members and see when everybody was all available at the same time, and recognizing that everybody has different schedules. Obviously, the 5th and the 19th, we do have regular council meetings on the 5th and the 19th, the 1st and 3rd. May 8th is a day when everybody's available. May 13th and perhaps May 14th are days when everybody is available. Larry, you have
Planning and zoning for 14th.
Right, where you indicated that you could also miss that. And then we go to May 29th. 29th.
That's good.
Right. So, if at all possible, and this somewhat depends on, on Springstead's schedule, but if I had, if at all possible, if we could move things up as much as possible. So that would mean perhaps even, maybe on that May 5th, Sharon Klump will be here. We had an earlier meeting that night, and Jenny, I know you had a conflict that.
Which one?
On May 5th?
Maybe not. That might have changed since I emailed Kathy.
Because that is the regular council meeting, and Sharon would be here at that time. Maybe there's a chance that, if we could have the materials ahead of time, we could have a longer meeting, later meeting, earlier meeting, but accomplish that on May 5th, and then on that following 13th and 14th, have interviews then that would then leave that the 29th, if we have to have a follow-up interview with a candidate.
That sounds good.
And I know we had talked about, some other dates, but I know we're all tentative and some things get scheduled with that. Could we propose that?
I'm fine with that.
What time are you thinking on the 5th? I think that's going to be a long...
Yeah, Glenn
Well,
just
that's
scheduled a whole bunch of public meetings. You just scheduled a whole bunch of public meetings that night.
Well, is there a chance that perhaps we could meet at noon? To have 2 meetings that day?
I'll be close. If my flight lands on time, I get in Minneapolis at 8:05 in the morning, so if it gets there on time, I'll be fine.
So come on out cheerful. Come on out cheerful.
Right out the Sherry Club?
Yeah, that's getting off there, playing true.
What are you thinking, an hour for that? For the interviews?
Well, that's just for the screening of the candidates. And, perhaps if Sharon had, I think we can get it done in an hour. If we have the material before, if she gives us that rating instrument that we can complete prior to that.
Or would we be better off to do it at 4? I don't care.
We can do it at 4 o'clock and we run into our meeting time, postpone, we can meet after the regular.
Well, we are used to long meetings, so.
That's ending time, we got to wait for the regular meeting.
Okay, good suggestion, let's plan on that. 4? Okay. 4 o'clock on the 5th, and then let's put a hold on 13th and 14th, which would be Tuesday and Wednesday. Time yet to be determined. We can talk about that, because that's going to be determined somewhat by how Sharon Club sets up the schedule and the candidates are available.
Well, it might be pretty short notice for some candidates, you play on the 5th, I mean, that's.
Gives her 8 days, so.
I think we ought to be ready to arrest after that, so yeah, I think we need to keep that kind of schedule.
Okay, I don't have anything else to bring forward. Let's move on then to review of pending agenda items. Questions on the pending agenda items?
Well, I just brought up that one on the appointment thing, is there a tentative date the airport commission asked that question? They're trying to get an answer.
Let's have some discussion on that. I know there's been some previous discussion you and I had on that, and part of that is also the county appointed 2 commissioners, which they can't, that's not allowable. So the county has to undo their appointment. So
Mr. Penske is one of them who's asking the question.
yeah. So anyway, there's, and I don't recall if it's in the FAA regulation or if it's in state statute.
State statute.
Elected officials can't be on that board, so.
But it was mentioned that the 15 applying for the funds.
Yeah.
Even if this is
Glenn, we'll have conversations on that. Maybe one item for, on the pending agenda items, just as a, under the major objectives, just as a correction on the purchase land for expansion under who's responsible. Could